Ho, ho, ho. Merry Printmas, everybody? Well, that's right. It's officially Christmas time. Well, it is for me now, but it was for you watching this video. Basically, what I'm getting at is I actually have to post this video after Christmas has already passed, even though at the time that I'm filming this, it is currently a few days before Christmas. But yeah, I've got some things that some people can't see. It would be kind of some spoilers as far as some upcoming gifts. So, Merry Christmas anyways. But the point of today's video is actually 3D printing Christmas for my family. That's right, I do make lots of props that I get to make videos about and then go to Comic Cons and show these things off. Sometimes I get to do custom commissions, and I love doing those things. But one of the things that I love the most about 3D printing is honestly getting to make unique things for the people that I love. So naturally, anyone that has had a 3D printer for probably more than a couple of days and has gotten the hang of it has at some point said, I'm going to make this for my family, or I'm going to make that for my family. And that's essentially what today's video is. I have a bit of an assortment of some things that I made for different family members and loved ones for Christmas. Now, I do want to forewarn you at the very beginning of this video actually took a few months for me to make. That's right, I've got some projects that literally finished like a 2-hour print and then that was it. And then I have other projects that I was working on for like months to get it ready for Christmas. That being said, I just want to apologize in advance for any moments in the video that might seem a little bit incoherent. In one clip, you might see me in shorts spray painting something, and in the next clip, you might see me wearing a jacket and long pants. It just it's just the nature of this video. So I've done my best to keep this as orderly and organized as possible, but I do just want to just warn you in advance. If it seems like things are all over the place, it's the holiday season and I have kids. Of course things are all over the place. So show me a little grace there. But yeah, that being said, let's dive in and let's talk about some of the things that I made for my family this Christmas. For starters, let's talk about the things that are a little bit on the simpler side, let's say. For this, I'm talking about ones that I, for the most part, just printed raw and either took off the bed plate and it was a completed gift, or maybe a little bit of assembly required, but no major painting. I'm just going to get this first one out of the way because I have to. I have kids. One of my kids is in school. He's been influenced. And yeah, 6'7" is something that I can probably never go through a day without hearing. But this was basically just a fun stocking stuffer kind of a gift and did not take long to print at all. But this is pointless, it is dumb, and my kids will think that it is hilarious. So I love them, and I love my kids. I don't love these. I kind of wish that I could melt these down, but my kids will love them. 6'7". There's even little hands there on the base. So yeah, it is what it is. Now, for those of you who don't know, me and my wife actually did have a baby this year. We had our first baby girl, and we are absolutely thrilled to be spending Christmas with her this year for her first Christmas. That being said, I had to make her some pink things. The first thing that I had to make her was, of course, a pink Darth Vader. I mean, look at this thing. It literally looks like it was crocheted, and it's a pink Darth Vader. So just a little something for her to grab onto, and yeah, I think that this is really cute. Another thing that I made for my daughter is actually a functional baby rattle. This is a really neat file that you can find on Maker World, and basically the file is set up in such a way that it'll print up to a certain layer and then it's going to pause. And it's going to give you a moment where you can actually fill this with beads or rice or something like that. I used rice personally. And then you can hit resume on your print, and then it will continue printing the rest of it. So there's rice in here, and that rice is not coming out. I think that's pretty neat, and I think this is super cute. She's at that point where she's starting to grab at things, and I think she's going to have an absolute heyday shaking this bad boy. Now, this print is one that I'm actually really excited about. One of my sons is a pretty natural artist, and he's super passionate about it, and I am all about it. I am all about encouraging him to pursue that. I'm kind of blown away by some of the stuff that he is able to accomplish at his young age, and I think that if he keeps up with it, that he is going to just become an amazing artist as he grows and grows. This print here is actually like a painter's palette where you print this. This is just a raw print. You print this, I printed the stump in brown and then I printed the mushrooms in white. But the mushrooms are literally little painter's palettes where you can apply the paint there and then take it with your paintbrush and then do your thing, paint your stuff, and then when you're done, you can actually put your paintbrushes in the middle here of this stump. You can have water in there if you want, and literally all I had to do was just glue these little pieces in there, which was actually easier than I would have thought and was pretty satisfying to do. But I think that this, look, it even says art there. I think that this is a fantastic little print that does not take very much time, does not take very much effort, but if you or someone that you know is really into art, and especially painting, this right here could be the perfect gift or just fun thing for you to print for them. So yeah, I love this guy. Now, the next couple of gifts were a little bit more complicated, but still we're talking about raw 3D prints. First up, we actually have these really cool sheriff badges that I made. Now, these aren't your average sheriff badges. These are Dirty Dan sheriff badges. If you know, you know. If you know, you're super excited. If you don't know, you're like, what the heck are you talking about? Well, my kids really enjoy SpongeBob. There's an episode of SpongeBob where there's a character-ish referred to as Dirty Dan, and my kids love playing Dirty Dan. They love that episode. So I went ahead and I printed a sheriff's badge. But the problem was is that this file was just for a basic sheriff's badge. So I went ahead in my slicer and I went ahead and added the word Dirty Dan in there. Not too complicated. Where it got a little bit more complicated was figuring out how to mount this. So what I did was I took this file and I went into Tinkercad and I went ahead and drilled out digitally a couple of holes for magnet slots here in the back. Then I just created a simple circle like this and put in some magnet holes on that side as well. So now my kids can wear their Dirty Dan sheriff badges without poking a million holes or potentially stabbing themselves with a pin. Trust me when I say this, if you can 3D model at all, you can probably do this because I am not the most gifted 3D modeler, and I was able to pretty easily create this in Tinkercad. Now, for the next gifts, I ended up doing something really special. For several family members, I ended up making lithophane prints. What exactly is a lithophane print, and what madness is this? Let me show you. Did that line up all right? I sure hope so. But this right here is what a lithophane print looks like. Wow, try saying that a lot of times. Now, there's lots of different websites out there that you can use. I went and found a website that works well for me, and you can import how many pictures you want to choose. You choose the shapes, and then you literally print this bad boy in one color. I just printed these in white, made these for several members of the family, and when you shine a light through it, it makes an awesome little centerpiece. So you can do all kinds of crazy things with this. You can even do this for like lampshades if you want. But this was a fun gift, and I ended up making these for several members of the family. So definitely wanted to show these off as this is something that many of you with a 3D printer at home could do. It's actually not that complicated, and most of the programs that you use for it are free. The ones that I did certainly were free. Now, up to this point in the video, we've been primarily showing off raw 3D prints. And don't get me wrong, those prints are awesome and they are fantastic gifts. However, those prints did require a little bit less effort on my part, and it's something that a lot of people that have a 3D printer could just go up and print themselves. Sure, some of them had a little bit of quirks here and there, whether it was like adding pictures to this or magnets to that, a little bit of 3D modeling, but for the most part, it was basic skills and the printer did most of the hard work. However, this year I wanted to make sure that I had a couple of gifts that I had personally put a little bit more elbow grease into to making a more finished prop. Let's talk about those now. Did it work? Did it do the thing? Was it lined up? I don't know. Who cares? Anyways, I want to talk about some of the finished 3D printed props. I'm going to take this off because this thing sounds so echoey in my head. For the pieces that I actually ended up printing and sanding and painting and making finished props, I decided to go with these two projects here. First of all, this right here, if you know, you know, this is Handsome Squidward. My wife and her family are obsessed with SpongeBob, and from the moment that I saw that this was a 3D printed file, I just knew that I had to eventually make this for my wife. So this Christmas happens to be that year. So yeah, I went ahead and printed this bad boy out on my Bamboo P1S, and now it's going to be time for some sanding and some filler primer, some priming, painting, all that fun stuff so that she can look awesome, right? This is awesome. The other prop that I want to talk about is this helmet here. And I'm curious if anybody's going to know what this is, but I'm just going to go ahead and tell you because it's a YouTube video, right? This is the Turbo Man helmet from Jingle All the Way, the Christmas movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. If you know, you know. This was a movie that I grew up with in my childhood, and honestly, my memory growing up is that most of my family didn't want to watch this movie, and I was one that was always super excited about watching this movie, and I couldn't miss a Christmas without it. Anyways, my sister and her family, they're also obsessed with this movie, and so I decided to go ahead and make this as a present for my father-in-law. So with no further ado, let's go ahead and take these two props here and put some time and work into these. We're going to sand these down, we're going to use some filler primer, fill up any imperfections, and then once they're paint ready, we're going to give these guys an awesome paint job, one that is deserving of their awesomeness. So cue awesome time-lapse video now. Now, as far as the various paints and primers are concerned, these cans right here are all that I use on these projects. You already know it, I end up covering my prints with the filler primer in the filling, priming, sanding phase with the Duplicolor red filler primer. That stuff is fantastic. I will not stop recommending it because it is amazing stuff and it works extremely well. Love that. I also used a little bit of this black sandable primer. I specifically used that on the Turbo Man helmet. Because of the red that I was using with the Turbo Man helmet, I wanted to use the black to determine if there were any major flaws in the print that I needed to clean up before getting it to a shiny surface. But I also knew that hitting this red on top of this red would end up maybe being a little bit hard to tell if I had proper coverage. So I really wanted there to be a black base coat. So the black sandable primer is what I ended up using for the Turbo Man helmet specifically. Now for the red of the Turbo Man, I ended up using this Duplicolor can. This is, let me see, what color is this? Helps if I'm looking in the right place. This is the Victory Red. So I went to O'Reilly for this, and they have a huge variety of different reds in Duplicolor, and that's the one that I went with, and I'm pretty darn happy with how it came out. Now for the gold, nothing new here under the sun. We're literally using Rust-Oleum's gold metallic finish. That stuff is beautiful, it works great. Love it for a good gold finish. It's the same stuff that I use on my Iron Man suit. Now for Squidward's face, there were a lot of different colors that I was looking at, and the funny thing is that actually on camera, that blue looks a little bit brighter blue, but it's a little bit more muted in real life. But this is going to be the vintage teal satin finish by Rust-Oleum. I didn't bother with the sandable primer for Squidward specifically because I was pretty confident that this blue paint would end up covering really well, and boy did it. That stuff covered amazingly, and yeah, so definitely worked. I love the color. It came out really great for Squidward's face, and yeah, happy with that one. And then of course, last but not least, we top off all of our prints with a coat, well, with multiple coats of the Duplicolor 1K clear. This time we use the gloss finish. Now with the Duplicolor 1K Clear, what you want to do is you want to start with a couple of light mist coats. It'll honestly feel like you're not doing a whole lot, but you're just trying to dust the print. You're not trying to go crazy heavy. I'll usually do at least 2 light dust coats, and then I'll start to build it up a little bit more, and then by the end I go pretty heavy on there. And when you go heavier on that clear coat, that's when you'll get a really nice shine. Just don't let it run. So practice with it, play with it, but the Duplicolor 1K Clear is fantastic for clear coating your prints or your projects. So I've shown you guys some fancy time lapses and I've talked about the paints. Let's talk about the finished products now. With the Turboman helmet, this is what it ended up coming out like. And I am just thrilled with how this came out. I mean, look at me. I'm Turboman. You can always count on me. Yeah, I'm definitely living out some childhood fantasies here. Now I'm super happy with how the paints came out together, and I think that I got a great finish on this. But there's one thing that you're seeing here that I haven't talked about yet, and this visor. How did I get this visor? Well, I want to take a minute and I want to talk about it. First of all, this file, I actually got the file for this from Do3D, and I used them for like 90% of the projects that I've done here on YouTube. Do3D is a wonderful company to work with. They have amazing models. The nice thing is, especially with helmets, is that they're all pretty much scaled to the same dummy's head. So I know that almost all of the stuff that I get from Do3D, I can scale to the same measurement and it'll fit my head well. But on top of that, Do3D also has fantastic customer service. This helmet is a great example of that. I got this helmet and I was super excited about it. I printed it, I was getting ready to sand it and do all that stuff, and I realized he has a visor, and he needs a visor, but the files don't come with a visor. So I reached out to Do3D, and I messaged them and I said, hey, I know this is a long shot. This helmet file was not advertised with a visor, but just curious, is there any chance that you could maybe throw together a visor for this? I honestly didn't know what to expect, but I got a response within like, I think an hour of reaching out, and we talked some of the details, but next thing you know, shortly after, he ends up sending me the files for this visor. Now there's a clear one like this, a basic one, or there is also a mesh one. So if you're not wanting to go through a fancy process and you just want a mesh visor, you could technically do this with a mesh visor. It's not film accurate, but it would be great for cosplay if you don't want to go to the measures that I went to for this. So once again, I want to shout out Do3D for this awesome helmet because it's fantastic. If you have a 3D printer at home and you would like to print this or any of the other projects that they have on Do3D's website, you can actually support me and get a discount by using the code P2050 when you're checking out on their website. I'll have that linked below, but again, that's going to be on screen as well. The discount code is P2050, and you'll be supporting this channel and getting a small discount at Do3D's website.com. Thank you guys once again for coming through clutch with this visor so quickly. I appreciate you. So now I've got the file for the visor, but what do I do with that? Well, there's different approaches that you could go with it, but I ultimately ended up deciding to resin print this using my Saturn IV Ultra. Yes, it's the Saturn IV Ultra. After a while, all the different printer names, they just kind of mix up in your head and become this kind of mush of a bunch of different names. But yes, I went ahead and resin printed this on my Saturn IV Ultra using a clear resin. I've got some footage of that, but I also want to share some footage where I actually break down that process. So let's go ahead and watch that next. So I got the visor printed out in a clear resin, and it is a perfect shape. This is going to fit the helmet perfectly. The problem is, if you look through this, obviously you cannot see through that. So what we're going to do is we're going to wet sand this bad boy with really high grit sandpaper and slowly work this thing down until it's really smooth. Then we're going to hit it with a clear coat, and it's going to be nice and clear to see through. So it is not perfect, but as you can see, this visor is a whole heck of a lot easier to see through than it was when we first started with the raw, clear resin 3D print. So after sanding this bad boy down and then hitting with those clear coats, now we're ready for the fun part, and that's going to be tinting this. Now, if you've watched some of my other videos, you probably have seen me do a tutorial, so I'm going to keep this kind of brief. So we're going to use the warm soapy water here to dampen the visor itself, and then we're going to take this vinyl tinting and we're going to apply it across the top of this. We're going to get it on there, try to work out the bubbles. It's honestly really similar to putting on a screen protector if you've ever done that with your mobile device. So let's go ahead and do that. To do this, you'll need some of the supplies that are in front of me. You'll need, of course, your tinting. You'll need a blade of some sort. This one actually came with a little blade and even a scraper. Normally I would just use like a library card, but we're going to use these because they came with the kit. And then paper towel, and the soapy water, and of course the visor that you're wanting to tint. This is going to be the perfect tinting for this visor. So now we get a paper towel, get it in the water, and we lightly apply it to the visor. Now, we're just going to go for it. The vinyl was fighting me a little harder than it usually does, and that's when I realized that I'm a big dummy because this actually comes with a protective layering which you need to peel off first, which I did not. Yeah. So let's try this again. All right, I think that came out pretty good. We're going to give this a second. We're going to let this sit and just let the water kind of settle and see if we can get those bubbles out. And if we need to do it once more, because there are some significant bubbles in here, if the bubbles don't come out, then we'll try again with another piece. I've actually got a piece out right now that's just going to be a flattening with books so that it's not going to roll up on the edges and hopefully a little easier to work with. But that is definitely what we're going for with a visor. And after messing around with it, look how good this guy came out. Yeah, that is a Turbo Man gold tinted visor. So there's nothing left to do now but stick it in the helmet, which is over there looking beautiful. Hi, helmet. All right, so we have the finished helmet and the finished visor. Now all we have to do is put the two together, and we got a finished prop. I'll be using a hot glue gun for this, and I'm going to be very careful to use minimal amounts because it's a clear visor. So we don't want to show more glue than we have to. Eh? So there you have it. After a little bit of work, some sanding, some clear coating, and then applying this visor on there and just gluing it in there, you've got a finished product. And I have to say, I absolutely love how this helmet came out. But growing up, Jingle All the Way was always one of my absolute favorite Christmas movies, so it's been an absolute pleasure working on this project. I always told myself that someday I would end up making something like this, and you know what my friend Turbo Man says? Always keep your promises if you want to keep your friends. Should I just keep this thing on? Like, always? Like, always? But enough about Turbo Man. Let's go ahead and talk about my other special project that I'm working on for Christmas. Of course, when I'm referring to that other special project, I would be talking about none other than Handsome Squidward, my most disturbing or cursed prop that I've probably ever made. When my wife opens this, she's either going to be extremely amused and blown away, or she's going to be looking for a different place for me to stay tonight because she's going to be too concerned about my mental well-being. But as I said, my wife absolutely loves SpongeBob, so I think that this is going to be an awesome gift, and I think she's going to get a kick out of it. Now, I did get a lot of footage of the different parts and processes while I was working on this helmet, but because of the weird nature of the inside of this helmet and just the general shape of it, it's kind of hard to get good angles where you could properly see what I'm doing inside. So in the interest of keeping things a little bit simpler and a little bit easier for you as the viewer to understand, I'm going to kind of talk through the process of this helmet. Of course, I already did talk about the paint, so I'm not going to go over that in depth again, but I do want to talk about a few of the steps that came after that. The first of those things being, after I had fully painted this thing and clear coated it and it was basically ready, I wanted to go one step further and just really solidify this print and this paint job. So I went ahead and buffed and waxed this helmet. Now, if you're into 3D printing and you want to experiment with this, I would highly recommend it. There are times where buffing and wax might not be necessary, but there's other times where it comes out really great. And I'm really happy with how this bad boy came out. Now, after I had buffed and waxed, I had to decide how exactly I wanted to attach this whole helmet system. Now, the file does come with the main headpiece and then also a back piece, and there are already pre-made magnet slots in both pieces of these so that you could attach this magnetically. However, sometimes magnets are iffy, sometimes it just becomes a bit of a hassle trying to glue them in, or just maybe it's not as strong of a hold as you would like. And I would really like her to be able to slip this on and off without having to worry so much about lining up magnets. You absolutely could use magnets, and I'm sure it works perfectly fine, but I wanted to try something a little bit different. So for the purposes of this video, I actually ended up adding elastic straps. So as you can see, you can kind of see it there wiggling a little bit. That then allows you to kind of pull the back of the helmet back a little bit to squeeze your head in. But then once it's around your head, it actually helps hold it in place. I'll demonstrate. So see, we got some wiggle room there. I'm just gonna stick this on my head and there. Oh, oh my gosh! What have I done? So as you can see, that works really great. And I think because my wife's head is even smaller, it's going to be even easier for her to squeeze her head in here, and I'm not worried about this fitting her at all. This is perfect. It just perfectly fits me. If anything, there's a little bit of room in there. If needed, I'll add some padding in here, but this helmet should be pretty good for her. Of course, after I had waxed and after I had attached the back, the last thing that we had to do was we had to put in the eyes and the lips. Again, if there's any B-roll footage that's usable, I'll put it in here at this point in the video, but it is kind of difficult to see the way that I was hot gluing some of the pieces along the inside, just because it's a really awkward angle to be filming at. So sorry that there's not more footage that shows that, but I think you guys get the gist of it. So, handsome Squidward, is this the most impressive print that I have made yet? I think this far surpasses my Iron Man suit, don't you? Now, while the files for my Turbo Man helmet came from do3d.com, the files for this helmet came from Wireframe 3D that I have also mentioned before in this channel. This is actually a Walsh 3D model that he designed. So that's honestly going to wrap it up for today's video. Sorry if there were moments and bits and pieces of it that seemed kind of sporadic and spread out all over the place. That's kind of what this holiday season has felt like, and if I'm being honest, with kids, that just adds to that feeling even more so. So I have been kind of all over the place trying to get this stuff done, but you know, it is really one of my favorite things, getting to take this hobby that I love, this business that I've got going, but also incorporate it into Christmas and get to make really special, definitely special, unique gifts for my family and loved ones and friends and everyone. So, you know, if you guys made something fun for Christmas with 3D printing or EVA foam or whatever you did, whatever creative props you made or gifts that you made, I'd love to see those. So if you're on Instagram and you want to just like send me a post or whatever, go for it. You know, I'd love to see what you guys made, but I hope you enjoyed this video where I got to show you some of the unique things that I made for my family and send help, because I'm not sure how I'm going to top some of these things that I made here, and it's gonna be interesting. But do stay tuned for some new videos. My videos are slowing down just a little bit, but I do have some really big projects that I'm working on that I think you guys are going to be really excited to see. Make sure that you drop a like, hit subscribe, and click that bell icon. That way you never miss any notifications when my videos go live. Thank you guys, and I hope you guys have a wonderful New Year celebration. Bye for now. You, kid, remember, accessories sold separately, batteries not included. It's turbo time! I'm so sorry for that, laddie. Nobody likes you, Booster. Booster? I don't know Booster. I'm going nuts. Okay.